implemented aspect of our RHCA and brought on other board of directors to the table. So we have implemented the whole architecture and engineering to it, as well as associates, anyone and everyone that has anything to do with construction. So that's construction industry, architecture, engineering. So even if you are a service provider, this would include you as well, because we want to make sure that we cover across the board. So I think here on the screen, and you may be able to see it, I have several other screens popped up on here, and on the top, that's in bold, you will see our previous or original mission statement. And I know y'all can read, but I'll go over it with you. The mission, the original is the mission of Regional Hispanic Contractor Associations to promote and support the advancement and economic growth of the Hispanic contractors in Texas. We are committed to developing programs and facilitating the resources needed to help Hispanic contractors reach their potential. Again, the RHCA has grown, and we wanted to make sure that we have made some changes to our bylaws, but we wanted to make sure that our mission statement mirrored what our bylaws had to say. And so our new mission statement, we have incorporated the architects and engineers. And again, the RHCA is not just focused on Hispanic contractors or any Hispanic construction industry firm. We do have a variety of members, very diverse. We wanted to make sure that we included that as well. So our new mission statement is now been approved by our board of directors, and it now reads: the mission of the Regional Hispanic Contractors Association is to promote and support the advancement and economic growth of the Hispanic contractors, architects, and engineers in Texas. We are committed to developing programs and facilitating resources needed to help the diverse architectural, engineering, and construction AE industry reach their potential. So again, we wanted to make sure that we covered everyone within the construction industry, and to also incorporate the diversity of our organization. So I'm very thankful that the board of directors was able to provide their feedback and constructive criticism, and again, making sure that we covered everything across the board. So I hope that makes a little more sense to you all, and kind of, again, some of the changes that we have coming along, and making those changes necessary as the organization continues to grow. Let's see here. Just again, some of the things that we're still working on, the building, a lot of things I wouldn't say are put on hold. It's just, again, adjustments necessary to how we're going to move forward with a lot of what we're working on now. Again, Julio and the staff, they're working on how we're going to continue doing these webinars, training sessions, of letting people know of opportunities. So we're not going to cancel those, other than we're just going to make adjustments on how we can continue doing business as usual. The building, we're going to continue doing our capital campaign. So stay tuned, look forward, look through your email to see what's coming for that. We do want to continue with the construction of our new facility, or the renovation of our facility, I apologize. And we want to have this facility available to you all as soon as possible. And I think I have taken up a lot of your time. We want to get into it. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes. I'll keep it real quick, because the interesting thing is panelists. So this coming week, our members will be getting phone calls from our nominees for the board. And after this week, Monday, April 6th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll have online elections. On the previous slide, you saw the slate of officers. That's slate, so you'll just say yay or nay on the online. So our chair is already Bianca Sandoval, and then we have Yesenia Garcia for vice chair, Molina for treasurer, and Angela Barrow for board secretary. All have proven track record serving the board and hold leadership positions in the organization. slide shows the board needs. These are the men and women who want to serve on the board. There are 10 spots available, 6 for construction, 3 for architecture, and 1 associate. These are the men and women that will be calling our members coming week to ask for your support and your vote. And then you will get an email that shows everybody's photos. And then on Monday, our members will get an email, review files and photos, and then select candidates that want to vote. So we are right today, start the election process, and the final election count will happen on Monday, April 6th. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, now we'll have Mr. Scott Lane, Deputy Superintendent of Operations and Chief Operating Officer, give you guys his presentation.
Good morning. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I did unmute my mic, so I would like to get started, and I'm assuming someone's gonna flip the slides for me as we go on. So first of all, I wanna thank all of you for your service and what you do for the Dallas Independent School District. I know we're dealing with some very difficult times right now, and fortunately, I think we've been able to continue with construction on our 2015 bond program. I'm not sure how long that will continue, but hopefully we're going to keep going as long as we can with our construction program. So again, thank you so much. And we've been on conference calls of learning from home, the technology, the meals, to give you a feel for the meals we've been distributing. Yesterday, we're distributing meals to our students on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 48 different sites. And on Monday, we distributed about 124,000 meals to our students. And then yesterday, we were over 211,000 meals that went out to our students. So we're trying to do everything we can to help folks, and we'll continue to move forward. So with that, I want to give you a brief update. I apologize, but I'm going to have to depart at 11:30 due to another meeting. And I know Gary Frazier is going to be on to talk about construction management at risk on our projects. And then Tim Strusley will be on to provide an update on the 2015 bond program as far as overview, where we're at, and what projects are coming up in the schedule. So if you could please move to the next slide. Okay, so talk a little bit about construction management at risk. As you know, we have 2 projects really going right now that are construction management at risk. Our pre-K 8 West Dallas STEM School will be located at the old Pinkston High School. We are building a new high school at this moment. And then what we call the TJ project, Thomas Jefferson, which will be a massive renovation to the existing school. And then Cary Middle School will be demoed, and a new pre-K 8 will be built on that site. So we have started that process with CORE. I know Gary will talk about it, but they actually took bids yesterday just for the demolition piece of the work. And we're on a very, very condensed schedule and anticipate opening both those schools in August of 2022. So when we talk about construction management at risk, people always ask, what are the big differences between doing CM at risk and just typical competitive sealed proposals? And in short, I think there's two major components that differentiate these 2 different delivery methods. The first, in the construction management at risk, you're allowed to hire the contractor up front during the design process. And for the most part, the contractor, the construction manager, is hired based on their qualifications and not necessarily on price, even though their price does become a part of the overall assessment in terms of assessing a percentage of fees for the amount of work that'll be done. So I'll say one big advantage or one big difference is the contractor is on board up front with the architect, with the owner, to help throughout the design process to be able to show us ways where we can save money, do things in a better way, and then also evaluate and assess the conditions of an existing building. The other major component, I would say, is in the bidding process. With the construction manager at risk, they will actually bid the work once the drawings are complete, and it will be an open bid process, meaning the school district, other representatives will be in the room as the bids are opened up by the various trades or divisions within the specifications. So it allows us the opportunity to see all of the subcontractor bids and help us make decisions on what would be best for the job. But once that is complete and we have the construction manager has subcontractors established and a guaranteed maximum price for the project, from that point forward, the project takes place just like a general contractor would do the project. The construction manager actually becomes the general contractor at that point and manages all the subcontractors for the job. So those are, I think, are the two big differences. And you can see on your screen some of the advantages and disadvantages to this method. It's new for us. I want to be upfront and honest on that. This is the first time we've done it. I've done it many times in other districts, but you know, we want to make sure this process works. And the other thing I'll mention, you know, we did go to the board with the pre-K 8 West Dallas STEM project and indicated to the board that would be our only test project for construction management at risk. But as you know, what happened to us was the tornado hit and severely damaged TJ and Cary and Walnut Hill. And as we looked at a schedule to try and open those schools in 2022, we did not feel like we could get there with the CSP process, and that the construction management at risk was the only way we could get there. And the reason for that is different things will be bid at different times throughout the design process. As I mentioned earlier, the demo package was bid yesterday. So we will get going on the demo package while the architect continues to design the project, rather than on a CSP, where typically you wait until the project is completely designed and then one bid is taken at the end. So I want to be honest, and I'm not trying to do additional construction management at risk projects at this point. We did it only because of time schedule involved with those particular projects. So that's kind of my overview on the construction management at risk. And now I want to spend just a few minutes to talk about our 2020 bond program that's upcoming. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, and go to the next one. So we started this process, go back one. We started this process in, no, go back one more. There you go, perfect. We started this process actually back in August of 2019, and this is just an overview of the meetings, go for it. Yeah. An overview of the meetings that have taken place to this point. One glitch we do have right now are the community meetings that were scheduled in March and April. We've already canceled the March meetings because of the COVID-19. We are working on developing a new schedule. Most likely the community meetings will take place in late April or May, but again, we're learning as we go along on how long this crisis is going to last. So you can see we were very transparent and open on how we laid out this 2020 bond program. We have if you can go to the next slide, we had an executive committee. Next slide, please. There. The executive committee up there at the top, which indicates a board member had one representative serve on the executive committee, and then the different governmental entities also had a seat at the table with the executive committee. We also set it up where there were 7 subcommittees that did work throughout the process: finance, facilities, technology, academics, or choice programs, athletics, and safety and security. And each of those subcommittees was chaired by a district staff person, but there were a minimum of 10 community volunteers serving on each of those committees. And one of those volunteers actually served as the co-chair. And throughout this process, as we've had meetings, these different subcommittees have provided reports on what they feel were needed in a future bond program. So if you'll go to the next slide, it actually provides a list of all the folks that participated in this process, and over 125 folks participated in the bond planning. And I can't thank the community enough for their support to this point and their participation in putting this program together. The next slide actually shows you our district website. We do have a Bond 2020 planning website. And if you go into that website, you'll be able to find a lot of information about what took place in the meetings, all of the different presentations, upcoming events, things like that. So if you have time, please go to our website and it will provide you with additional information. So the next slide, this is basically where we're at. When we laid this out originally, we went to the board and had 3 options for a $2.7 billion, 3.2, and a $3.7 billion bond program that would actually go to the voters in November of 2020. And this may be difficult to read, but it's actually a spreadsheet, and it shows the various groups of what is anticipated to be allocated for the various projects that are going to be within the program. So you'll see at the top, our highest priority obviously was safety and security at our campuses, and there were several millions of dollars allocated for that. We've also included where it indicates facilities, priority 1s and priority 2s. About a year ago, we put in place a long-range master plan that went through and did many things, but number 1, it assessed all our facilities and ranked all of the needs into 4 priority levels. Priority 1 basically covers what we call life safety conditions and equipment replacement needs, meaning anything dealing with security, fire alarms, accessibility, code compliance. All of those things were categorized as priority 1. And then priority 2 addressed our systems up to 5 years, meaning replacement of electrical systems, mechanical systems, roofing. All of those things are included in priority 2s. And then priorities 3s and 4s actually extended out the needs for the next 10 to 15 years. So we felt like in this bond program, we needed to address the priorities 1 and 2 for all of our facilities. And we've actually implemented this plan as a part of our phase 3 2015 bond program that Mr. Strusley will talk about a little bit later. But you can see we have a lot of money associated with just those would be what I'd call renovations to our existing schools. So our intent is we want to fix the schools the way they need to be fixed. And we were very clear that rather than going in and doing bits and pieces at every school and coming back at a later point, we want to go in, do it once, do it right, to where that school is at the level we want. One other thing I'll mention that's in priority 2 is what we call cosmetic or aesthetic upgrades to our campuses. In other words, we want the campuses, not only the systems current, but we want the campuses to look great. So it has things in there like power washing the exterior of the building, new windows, irrigation systems, new marquees, new sidewalks, exterior lighting, parking lot replacements, things like that are included as part of priority 2s. And then moving on was our choice schools, which were next prioritized. And we have several new schools that are included as a part of the choice schools. We're hoping to build a new school in downtown Dallas. That'd be pre-K-12, and then a new school up in the Valley View Mall area that would be a pre-K-12. Pre-K-8 in the medical district is also included, and then some renovations to Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, which are actually going on now, but get expanded at a later point. We've also included $250 million in technology needs. The 2015 bond program identified $100 million, and the technology was also a part of our long-range master plan. So we definitely have a plan moving forward for technology. We've included replacement of 14 of our elementary schools, meaning they would be demoed, torn down, and new schools would be built in their place. Again, as you look at the data across the country, most schools across the country average about 52 years in age. Ours are at, or they average 46 years of age. Ours are at 56, and by replacing these 14 schools, it gets us closer to that number, not quite to it, but gets us closer. So there's a number of replacement schools. A performing arts center, a brand new performing arts center would be included. And then other things, we have future choice schools that are farther down the line, but are included. Turf fields on our football, soccer fields at the high schools. A number of fine arts equipment is included. Renovations to our multiple career magnet center, and some improvements to our athletic facilities. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And then practice tracks at our high schools, all of those would be replaced. A number of CTE lab renovations at some of our high schools. Environmental center located down in Seagoville would be renovated. We put $25 million in here for what we call joint participation projects. And what we're looking for there is other governmental entities that would like to collaborate with us to do projects. We're willing to put money up front or match any money they have in order to do projects that benefit both entities, the school district and the other public entity. And then real quick, some other things, property acquisition, contingency fund, green building fund. We're putting $10 million in there for that. And then we've actually built in some inflation. And then $81 million for furniture. We have a lot of schools that have old furniture, and we wanted to do a mass replacement of furniture throughout the district with this bond program. So if you could go to the next slide. In terms of the subcommittees that I talked about earlier, this gives you a feel for how much money is allocated for each. And you can see the majority of the money obviously is in facilities, whether that's renovations or new facilities. And then safety and security has $104 million that will be used to address safety and security. For the most part, that deals with the cameras, the keyless entry, and things like that for our facilities. And if you go to the next slide, this basically shows all of those things in order of priority that are included. And you can see we talk about 3.7 billion, but it's actually about 5.5 million lower than that. The next slide basically gives you just bond highlights, some of the big things that are included in this bond program. And then finally, the next slide shows next steps. And this is going to change, obviously, because of what's going on, but the community meetings hopefully will take place in May. That's our plan. And then we were going to go to the board with our first draft in May, but that is going to be pushed back to June. So most recent discussions have been, we do the first draft at the June 11th board briefing and turn around and do the second draft at the June board meeting, which would occur 2 weeks later. And then we have virtual, we're going to have virtual meetings set up for the month of July. A lot of folks are on vacation. It's very difficult to make it to community meetings. And then we would go back to the board with our final recommendation in August 13th. The election for the bond program would have to be called no later than August 17th in order to meet the November 3rd election date. And the board would have to call that at the August 13th board meeting. So with that, I don't know if you want me to take questions. I have about 5 minutes before I have to get out.
Yes.
Get on.
I have 2 questions. One of it, the question is, what does open book really mean? The prices are open to whom? How many subs are actually chosen?
Okay. Well, open book, I mean, obviously, we are going to be there. We'll have representatives in the room during that. And then as far as, you know, we'll know exactly how many subs bid each of the trades, and we'll be able to see all of the pricing associated with each sub. So does that answer the question?
I think so. So we have 2 more questions. The next one is, are the fields going to be artificially turf?
Yes, they are at the high schools.
Okay. The third question is, what's the projected useful life of the new schools being constructed today?
Well, you know, that's a relative term, I think. Typically, a minimum of 50 years as far as the useful life is what you hear, and typically that's more associated with the neighborhoods, the communities continuing to have children in them. But we've got buildings right now that are over 100 years old. So anything we build, we would expect to be there for the foreseeable future. I would say a minimum of 50 years, but most likely it would be longer than that.
Okay, the next question is, how are the subs being chosen?
And that might be a better question for Gary Frazier when he comes on. But, you know, the bids are taken. I believe the construction manager validates the bids and then comes forth with a recommendation. But they're going to have to justify, you know, what comes forward, and you know, we'll just go from there, because I know we had a bid opening yesterday and I wasn't at that, so Mr. Frazier may have more information on that when he gets on the call.
Okay, next question is, will they have a program manager for the proposed bond package?
We do plan on going out for an RFQ for program managers on the 2020 bond. We haven't made any final decisions on how that would be structured, but we do plan on utilizing them in some capacity on the 2020 bond.
Okay, I want to give everybody a few more seconds to see if they have any more questions.
After my next meeting, I don't know how long it will last, but if possible, I'll jump back in case there's more Q&A at the end of the meeting.
Okay, I have one more. The question is, Will there be mandatory pre-bid meetings?
I'm assuming that's for the subs on the CMAR. Again, I think that's a question for Gary Frazier and probably Tim, because I'm not directly involved with that.
Okay, and I see one other one that says, under the CMAR process, how are contractors picked to get into the design process?
I would say I'm guessing there's a pre-qualification process, but again, that would be a question for the construction manager.
Okay.
As far as, I'm looking at two questions, chose on best value or low bid. I would say best value. Is there a projected timeline for architect RFQs? We would like to do them this summer, but obviously our schedule is in flux with the situation currently going on. And, our plan is to still move forward with the bond in November, but a lot's going to be determined based on how everything going on turns out. Who's the architecture firm on these projects? TJ HEERY, both of them are VAI architects. Actually, VAI was the architect on TJ prior to the tornado, so we kept them on that. And then they were previously selected to do the West Dallas pre-K 8 STEM.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott Lane. Any other questions, we'll make sure to email them to our panelists, and we'll make sure that we'll get those answered.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I apologize for having to run. And like I said, I'll try and jump back in if y'all are still meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll have Mr. Gary Frazier, who's the president of Core Construction, give everybody his presentation.
John, members of the board, I'm Gary Frazier. Good to be with you guys today. We've got a few brief slides to talk about, but my main objective is twofold, really. One is to introduce our company to your membership, and then two, talk about the process. So if we will advance the slide. And I'm going to skip this one. Scott did a pretty good job of talking about the differences on the delivery, but I'll tell you, while this is new to DISD, it's certainly not new to Core and our industry. Our K-12 projects are procured by this method, is the vast majority across the country, and certainly here in North Texas. So it's a delivery method that we're very accustomed to, and it's going to be a good experience for DISD going forward. So there's some of the things that we listed as pros, but again, Scott covered those pretty good in his slides. If you'll advance that, please. So I want to talk a little bit about our company and maybe the process. So we've got with me today, Stephen Butler is a senior project manager with Core, and he's on this project. Stephen Norman is our director of pre-construction, and you'll get their contact info in a second. And then finally, Jolynn with HEERY is also on the call, and she'll make herself available for questions regarding our outreach program. But let me talk just briefly about one of the big advantages that districts get in this CMAR delivery, and that's really pre-construction. So as Scott indicated, the Thomas Jefferson project is very much a fast-track process. The district's committed to opening the school in 2022. So there is a very fast pre-construction design process that Core and the design team are going through. As the name or the initials imply, CMAR means we are at risk, and that means we have a bond and a guaranteed maximum price that we submit to the district. And that price is not it doesn't change unless the scope of work comes to us as a change from the district. So that's what the big difference in CMAR and maybe CM agent is just that, where a contractor is guaranteeing the number. And one of the, so let me tell you basically a little bit of an oversight as to how this works. So I'm sure a lot of your membership and people on this call are very familiar with CMAR. Again, it's used by a lot of the school districts. But the pre-construction process involves us teaming with you and getting input from our trade partners early in the design. So we begin that dialogue now. In fact, we don't wait until the project is out for bid. But we're going to talk about that schedule in just a minute. But it's a very collaborative process. As Scott indicated, it is a best value process. So we evaluate all our trade partners in much the same way that we were evaluated. The bid opening, there's a question on that earlier, so I'll talk about that. The bids are opened. The way the CMAR contractors do that, typically it's in their office in the presence of the district and the design partners. So we all acknowledge the quotes when they come in. It's a very simple process. Most of these are turned in electronically. So you can submit a bid a number of ways. The idea is to make it as easy on our trade partners as possible. So we will work with you and however best it takes for you to get that your proposal in front of us at the designated time. So we all open them together, and then there's an evaluation process, and then finally we put our recommended team together, and that's really what forms the GMP. So if you'll go to the next slide. And I've covered most of that already. So again, the big value for us in the district right now is establishing these budgets and maintaining the design budgets as we go through. So our job is to provide good feedback to VAI and their partners so they can make the right decisions in the design process. And the next one. So let's talk a little bit about this pre-construction process. So we've got a couple of ways to get to you a qualification packet. One is through our website, and there is a link on our website, coreconstruction.com, and you can download that form. You can email our team, call our office, we'll send it to you. It's just a way for us to get to know your company a little better prior to when the proposals are due. And we are committed to creating bid packages that fit the community. So we will design packages to maximize participation, particularly among the MWBE firms. So we're obviously committed to that. We'll work with you on insurance requirements, anything that may be a qualification process. We're gonna work with you to make sure you can participate. We're gonna talk a little bit about the project overview, and I'll let Steve Butler do that. So if you'll go to the next slide, kind of give us an overview, if you would, Stephen, about just the size of the project and what all's entailed.
Morning, everybody. So, as Gary just mentioned, you can go to the next slide too. The next slide will show you just kind of some of the important dates coming up. So as Scott mentioned, we are fast tracking these projects. We just bid the demo of the existing middle school on site, and then also a couple of the wings of Thomas Jefferson are being demoed as well. The next thing coming up is our grading and a little bit of site demo left, as long as some site utilities. For people not familiar with the CMAR process, we do quite a bit of the same advertising as CSPs are. We're required to advertise for 2 consecutive weeks. We have job walks. We will do a job walk there. We will have, actual bid date. So that we're planning right now on advertising for grading and site demo early to mid-July right there. You'll see that 7/15. We're trying to start the grading and all the site utilities right about September 1st there. And so that will go for the rest of the year. Currently, as right now, all the drawings are being finalized. We're expecting to have 100%, CD drawing, construction drawings, first week of November. And so that will start the advertising and the bidding of the actual K-8 middle school and the remodel and expansion of Thomas Jefferson, along with, all the remaining site work as far as sports fields and everything associated with that as well. So that work is scheduled to start the first week of January, middle of January right there. Permits pending and everything. And we're scheduled to turn those things over July 15th of 2022, allowing them to have a month to move into both campuses and get that going. So that's what we're looking at. So the quick summary, the next area for participation we're looking at is grading and site utilities work, and that's going to be coming up in July, middle of July right now. We're advertising that. So the bid date should be somewhere around the end of July, early first week of August. And then if you want to go to the next slide, and then I can hand it back over to Gary. He can just kind of go over this stuff. This is our information here.
Before I do that, Jolene, is there anything you'd like to add insofar as our outreach efforts go?
Good morning, everybody. This is Jolene Musongo with the HEERY Management Group. We plan on this project to maximize the participation of MWBE firms. We are going to have a robust outreach program that will include working very closely with advocacy groups, chambers of commerce, and contractors associations to make sure that we find the best way to reach you and get you information about this project in a timely manner. Our outreach events will include one-on-one meetings with our team, one-on-one meetings with the main subs once they're connected. We will have outreach events where we will encourage networking between different tiers of subcontractors and the prime on this project. We as a team are committed. We as a team, CORE, HEERY, VLK, and Dallas ISD, we are committed to maximizing participation of MWBE firms. So please take down this information that you see on the screen. Feel free to reach out to any one of us if you have any questions that we can make sure that we get back to you in a timely manner. Thank you, Gary, and we'll just take questions as they come in.
Okay, Mr. Gary, if you can make sure to go over to the Q&A button, and you'll be able to see the questions. If you could read out the question and see how, and then answer it.
You bet. So I'll read these. The first question is, what measures will DISD put in place for internal contractors currently working on site that have access to proposing companies' information? So I think what Dimitri is asking there is, how will CORE be made aware of firms that are currently have a relationship with the district? So I would answer that by saying we'll get informed as to all of the contractors, subcontractor, trade partners that are currently working in DISD. So we make sure that we have their information and we'll reach out to them. Number two, can we get on your bidders list for our PPG friendly painting contractors? Absolutely. So Peter, if you'll reach out to Stephen Norman, whose contact information was on that screen, he'll gladly add you to our list so you'll know who those contractors are. Stuart asks, is there an opportunity for a supplier to provide pricing for lighting, electrical equipment, etc. You bet. So the like most projects, the suppliers for the lighting equipment go through our electrical contractors. So we will put you two together so you know who the electricians are that are competing for the work. That way you've got access to them and their contact information to make sure your materials get quoted properly. Any other questions? I'm seeing a couple of just some thank you responses. Let me go back to a couple of questions that were asked about to Scott. One was, would the pre-bids be mandatory? And the answer to that is no, they're not. We'll make pre-bids and we'll make job site walks on this project. We'll probably have multiple. The site is so large, Thomas Jefferson will probably take a couple of walkthrough type pre-bids. So we'll have more than one, but no, they are not mandatory. Another question I think that was asked earlier is, who is the program manager? We've got Nikita Veneer on Thomas Jefferson, who was already engaged in the project before the tornado hit. So they are still the program manager for the district. Dimitri asked, have you already selected your first tier contractors? No, we have not. There's been no selection of any contractors, trade partners at all on this project until they come out. It was mentioned earlier that we did take numbers this week on demolition. No action has been taken on that. We just took them yesterday. Are there opportunities for geotech, material testing? I would have to defer to VAI and the district and or the program manager, as testing is not part of core scope of work. Jennifer's asking about the site demo. No, nothing's been awarded yet. Are there opportunities for signage? You bet. So we'll, just as in every project, we've got the full gamut for scope of work. So there is signage and graphics. Peter's asking about Zoom, and I like, if this becomes the new norm, then you bet we'll do these Skype meetings, Zoom meetings, anytime we're asked to participate. So this might be the new norm here for a little while. Is there a need for temporary heating and humidification? Yes, Jesus, there is. In fact, there is a system in place right now that the district, through their insurance carrier, has in place. So as we speak, that building is being temporarily heated and cooled by a vendor that the insurance company has in place. So I'm assuming that will remain. Martin's asking Jolene about participation goals. So over and above the district goals, CORE and our team has a 40% goal for MWBE. CORE is not a joint venture. Is this meeting recorded and available? You know, I'm not sure about the recording. I'll let the district speak to that, but I did see that they were providing the PowerPoint presentation, so that's available to you.
Okay, so we'll give everybody 1 more minute to ask questions. And yes, we will provide the PowerPoint once you complete the survey.
As these questions continue, and I know our time is limited, I do want to encourage all of you guys to reach out to Steve Butler and or Stephen Norman, our two project manager and pre-construction director. They'll be happy to follow up with any of these questions that are added today, and we'll respond to you promptly. Lloyd, do you want me to continue, or do you want to? That's all we got for the presentation.
I think there's, if you can answer 1 more, and then we'll go to the next speaker.
Here's a question about equipment rentals. So you bet, civil equipment. Again, Juan, the equipment will be rented to to the subcontractors doing the work. And let me just kind of reemphasize that once this project gets awarded, it's like any of your other projects. It's all is exactly the same. You quote the job, participate in the job, and then we manage it just like any other job. So, you know, we rent, our trade partners will have rented equipment. I mean, everything else is normal. So if you've not been through this CMAR process, it's really the same for you as once we get going.
Okay. So thank you to Mr. Gary Frazier and the core construction team. As I mentioned, we'll get these questions and email them out. So next we have Mr. Tim Strusley, who's the Executive Director of Construction Services, and he'll give his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see you have one slide up there. I don't really have a slide presentation, but I did want to give you a bit of an overview on where we are as far as our Phase 3 projects. Yesterday at the March board meeting, we awarded 4 projects, which included H.S. Thompson New Elementary School, Bryan Adams High School renovation, Chapel Hill renovation, and the solar prep at Bonham renovation. We have 3 projects that are going to the April board for award. Those will be at Sidney Lanier Vanguard, another one at De Zavala Elementary School, and then the last one is at Central Elementary School in Seagoville. Then we're going to have a bit of a pause there. One school that is coming up, a large project, is Sunset High School, which will start bidding in April. Actually, right now we have it scheduled for the 15th of April, tax day, to go out for first advertisement. And we're intending to get that to the June board. That's a large renovation, includes a competition gym addition, fine arts addition, and a lot of renovation inside the existing school. And once again, that'll be going to the June board, starts advertising in mid-April. The remainder of Phase 3 is currently in design, and we're expecting to start bidding some of those out in the summer. Given the fact that we want to complete the bidding on Phase 3 hopefully before the November bond election, we have 16 projects out there that we're trying to finish up design. And so we're looking at a strategy to actually bundle those 16 projects into bundles of 3, with one exception being Anderson Elementary, which is down in Seagoville. The bundles we're looking at would be done on a geographical basis, so the campuses are relatively close to each other in a 3-school bundle. And we think not only will it help us on throughput as far as our procurement office, which is a lot easier to run 5 or 6 solicitations than it is to run 16, but we think also too it will be help leverage our construction companies who are in joint ventures to be able to give some more responsibility to the smaller partner in the joint venture. By having 3 schools in a bundle, potentially they could have them focus on one of the 3 schools instead of maybe a fractional role in one project. So this is a strategy that was used very successfully in the 2008 bond program, and we're looking to use it here to finish out Phase 3. So those projects you'll probably start to see advertise in the middle of summer. We're trying to get some to the August board and the September board, and there may be 1 or 2 that get to the October board, but we're really trying to get them all done by September. So we'll be furnishing Wilton with updates on the schedule so he can push that out to the community. But look for that later on in the summer. And so Julio, that's about the extent of my update. And I'll entertain any questions anyone might have.
Okay, thank you. If you can make sure to go to your Q&A button and you'll see the questions.
Okay, I'm there now. I'm scrolling down because I think some of these, well, I'll start with the first one from Demetria. It will be important that contractors understand the first tier contractor pre-qualification process. We need to make sure we put something in place because they will be one working directly with the second and third tier subs. I think that might be a question for Wilton. I'm not sure I can answer that one, but we can pass that along to our procurement and MWB office. The next question from Christina has to do, will indoor air quality testing be mandatory due to green build? We currently, on our products, we comply with the CHIPS program and the City of Dallas environmental and green standards. I'm not aware indoor air quality is necessarily mandatory under that. There are some requirements for that. So it's tough for me to give you specifics on that, but we do comply with those standards. So to the extent that indoor air quality testing is required by any of those standards, we certainly comply with those. I had a question on, is there a need for any civil equipment rental? I think maybe you're asking of the previous presenter. Certainly many of these projects that I've talked about are going to have exterior site work. Some are going to have additions, so they certainly could have a need for civil related equipment in them. Scrolling down, Charles is asking, have you considered having a 2D or a 3D visual of the site and possibly conduct a virtual site walkthrough? We currently have entered into some arrangements with a firm called Multivista for some of our new schools that were constructed. However, we are working on a RFP to go out and actually procure 2D, 3D visual assistance. Multivista is doing for us on these new schools are drone fly arounds. They're also doing progressive photography as the project goes through. So we do have that service now. We intend to make a bigger part of our program as we go forward. And like I say, we are working on an RFP for that kind of service. Okay, going down here, Valerie, you got a question about bipolar technology and air handling units. I can't really answer that. We typically rely on our engineers to look at these technologies, and we have not particularly addressed those until now. Someone's asking about the anticipated value of the Sunset High School project. I would estimate that's going to be somewhere in the low 30 to mid $30 million range. And Julia had a more question, so I hope that answers the question. One is asking, will Core Construction have any outreach programs via email or social media, since in person is obviously limited? I know Lynn, who was on earlier, Ms. Maswanga, she will definitely be planning outreach programs that won't require being there in person. So we will definitely be looking at the whole district now is getting very acquainted with video and audio conferencing. We've been running our meetings that way. So I fully expect we will using those kind of technologies to help with the outreach programs. Rollins has got a question here. Will the award metrics for MWB and joint venture guidelines remain the same in the 2020 bond program. At this time, I don't foresee any changes. I know there have been some general internal discussions about procurement, but I'd have to defer to Chris Robinson, who's our Chief Procurement Officer in the district, to get more details about that. But for now, I don't know of any in the metrics at this time. Next question comes from Anonymous. Is there any facilities management RFP for maintenance of equipment? I'm not aware of one per se. Mr. David Bates, who is our executive director for maintenance, would know what RFPs may be going out from his department. So I would encourage you actually to contact Central Procurement, Chris Boboff, and he can track that down for you. Next question is, does Dallas ISD use any bid sites to advertise bids, or are all projects advertised on the DISD website? I believe we do advertise with plan rooms around the Metroplex. I'm not aware we're using any electronic bid sites. However, I will check with our procurement folks. But I do know we do distribute to local plan rooms. And that looks like all the questions at the moment.
Okay, I do have one question, or if you can let everybody know the bids that were awarded yesterday, could you repeat those and who the GCs that were awarded?
Okay. Yes. Thompson, which is a new elementary school, that was awarded to Ratcliffe. And then Brian Adams was awarded to Sodalco SMR joint venture. Let me pull up my cheat sheet here on HS Thompson. Ratcliffe Star actually joint venture on HS Thompson. Solar Prep was awarded to a company called Company LLC. That was not a joint venture. And Chapel Hill was awarded to Northridge Production Basecom joint venture. And that is it for the projects that were awarded yesterday.
Okay, thank you. So if in the essence of time, we'll take one more question. We'll give everybody about a minute if they want to ask one more question. Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Tim Strusley. And again, if any questions we weren't able to answer, we'll make sure to send them to the presenters. And up next, I have Mr. Wilting Munnings, who's the MWBE Bond Program Manager.
Thank you, Julio. I appreciate you allowing Dallas ISD to be a part of this webinar today. For the sake of time, I just wanted to thank all of the Dallas ISD presenters. Plus, I would like to thank Core Construction for being a part of this. We hope that you got good information from this webinar, and we look forward to having many more. One of the things I wanted to do is I just wanted to share with you, I saw a list of questions, and I wanted to let you know at the end of my presentation, you're going to see some names. You're going to see my picture and my email. And of course, Julio is saying he's going to send this out. Please email me if you have any questions. we will be more than happy to get that information to you. But I wanted to let you know it's all about relationships. Core Construction has come on and they've told you how to get in contact with them. I would like you to follow up with them on that. Also, our Scott Lane, our Deputy Superintendent, has done a great job at explaining exactly what we're trying to do in the 2020 bond. So we hope that you had that was good information for you, and we look forward to doing business with you in the future. I wanted to thank the RHCA for their partnership and our participation in this this webinar. So thank you again, RHCA. You're a true partner, and we look forward to partnering with you in the future. I wanted to let you know here at the MWB department, basically what we do is we are advocates for you, the vendor. And what we try to do is we try to advocate so we can increase the amount of contracting opportunities so you can grow your business. So we look forward to how we figuring out how we can advocate for you going forward in the future. And I wanted to let you know that there is an MWB certification process. That process has to be done in order for us to count you as a MWBE company. We have resources internally that we would like to share with you. We have a consultant, her name is Tamika Sadler, and you can get in contact with her and we can help you through the certification process along with bonding. That's what she does too. So wanted to let you know our aspirational goal is 30% for construction projects and goods and services. And we also, for professional services, we have 35%. So all those folks that talked about civil and air quality and surveying, all of those questions that you had, that's stuff that we do have within the professional service area, and I'll be more than happy to get you in contact with our architect, VAI, on this on anything that you would like to talk with them and the possibilities of working with them in the future. So again, please get in contact with me. Next screen, please. So next screen shows the team here for MWBE. To our top left is our director, our fabulous director, Andy Partee, and you'll see my picture there to the right of that, and then to the left of that is Mr. Joseph Abrahams, and Miss Stephanie Broughton is right underneath mine, and Mr. Jesse Saldana is right there, and Valina Willis, of course, she is there. She's our glue. But anyone in this team is more than willing to help you meet your goals. That's our job here, is to make sure that we increase contracting opportunities for your business. That is, hopefully, we'll be able to match you up with the either right RFP or the right opportunity. So next screen. Next screen is the consultants that we have at Dallas ISD. That is Tamika Sadler that I mentioned earlier. She can help you with the certification process, and she can also help you with bonds. That is, if you're required to have a surety bond on the project, she can help you with that. Not many have this opportunity internally, but we do, and we will be more than happy to help you through this process so you can take advantage of some of our work. We also have a program management firm, MWB coordinators, Ms. Veronica Murphy, Ms. Katrina Martinez, and Ms. Erica Thompson. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to have program management firms in the 2020 bond. So we look forward to continuing to work with them. They help us manage a lot of projects. Next screen, please. So basically, I wanted to share with you, here are the opportunities that are coming up here in the real soon from construction services and also from goods and services. So you can see exactly what is in queue. Also, I wanted to share with you that if you need to become a supplier, a registered supplier with Dallas ISD, we have a link right here that you can go to and become a registered supplier. Also, everything that we talked about that's in the MWBE presentation is right here at our dallasisd.org/MWBE. You can find that online, and you can find everything that we've talked about here today. But we want to thank you for this opportunity, RHCA, and wanted to thank all the participants who participated here. And again, we look forward to doing business with you and building a relationship for the future. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Wilton. We'll take a quick minute to see if anybody has any questions for Wilton. And Wilton, if you could just go to the Q&A button, click on it, and read the questions as they come in and answer them.
Well, obviously the other presentations were real good.
Yes. So what we're gonna do now, thank you, Wilton and the DISD team. We really appreciate this information. Up next, we're gonna change over to the Dallas County Community College District. And I'll have Mr. Scott Wright, who's the Senior Director of Facilities Management and Operations. He's gonna give you his information on the opportunities that they have with the district. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Julio. So I can see the Q&A and also the chat. So if I'm not coming through clear or have any problems, just let me know and I will try to remedy those problems. First of all, thanks for letting us talk today. I know these times are very trying for everybody. The district has, worked feverishly these past couple weeks trying to get all of our curriculum online and keep business moving as much as we can. But the important part of that was we are still moving forward with all of our current and planned construction projects to include both sort of what I'll call day-to-day O&M, or as you see on the screen there, facilities improvement plan, what we call FIP projects. That's kind of our day-to-day operations. And then we also have our bond, our $1.1 billion bond, with which has several projects that I think John Moreau, our CBRE partner, they are our PM for the bond. They are going to talk about that a little bit later. But for the FIP projects, if you could go next slide. Okay, so you might think of this as sort of deferred maintenance. We prefer the term facilities improvement plan, but it does those type of things. And it also does some other projects as well, kind of renovation type projects. But the district is pretty healthy in what we're doing every year. It's about a $25 million budget, and that we expect the next fiscal year, our fiscal is in September. We do expect that to stay at 25 million for the next year, but it may go up in subsequent years and may even be reevaluated for 21 as well. But that's a pretty healthy budget for these type projects. So it includes things like roof replacements and overlays, equipment replacements. So that's air handlers, chillers, boilers, electrical. There's still some Federal Pacific panels lingering around that were getting changed out. So all type of equipment like that, the replacement of those type of things. Renovations are more kind of under this program, they're more kind of maybe major restroom renovations, maybe a section of a building, several classrooms, a hallway, that kind of things, or maybe it's a reconfiguration rather than more of a renovation, but it's maybe a reconfiguration, to repurpose that space rather than to renovate it. But all those type projects are what's going on in the FIP for this year. There was about, across the 25 million was about 30 projects total, and that's breaking out every one of the roofs. We did about 23 roofs across the district. That's breaking, not all those, but we broke that out by campus. So it's about roughly 30 individual projects that we manage separately inside that $25 million for this year. And I can tell you, with that many projects going at one time and all the time, the district's effort to utilize different contractors and new contractors and MWBE contractors is always a challenge, and a challenge meaning who we know and who is in our system and who has the availability and the capability and the capacity. So to the extent that we can grow that section of what we do with different and MWB contractors is always on my forefront. I'm always thinking about who do I match on each particular job that is going to give us the best product we can get, and also help our community. So if we could go to the next slide. Okay, so as I was just talking about, same thing with most public entities. DISD talked about it a little bit. So there's certain things you have to do to be able to do business with us. Okay, so one is, and it's not called out specifically on here, but one is you have to be registered with us, and I might be getting ahead on another slide, but so you have to be in our system that's known as Jagger. You can see it right up top there, our procurement system. So you have to go in there and you have to be registered in our system. And when you do that, you will get all of our notifications for RFPs, RFQs, all that type stuff. You will get that automatically depending upon the commodity that you choose or the service that you choose when you sign up. So that is a very important thing to always to go and do. I don't see the link on here, but we can certainly get you the link to register in our system. Now, once you register, though, there's more that has to be done if you actually want to do business with us. So in other words, if it culminated into selecting a certain contractor for a job, such that they're going to get a PO and actually do the work, there's a couple more things that we'd have to do, but those are facilitated when you sign up. There's a point of contact. I can reach out to them, and I can get those other things that we need. The W-9s and all the forms and all those things that we need to be able to issue a PO. We can do. So one other thing I wanted to talk about that is important to us, especially in times like these, is public entities. Public entities have usually pretty strict procurement procedures. It's just the way that it is. It's public money, taxpayer dollars, and so we're very, very mindful about where that money goes and who it's going to, and to make sure it stays within the community. So one of the tools we can use, though, to help us streamline our procurement in a pretty big way is what we call cooperative agreements. So you can see on the screen there, and there are many. These are only two, but I would say these are probably the ones that I see probably at least 90+% of the time are what we call TIPS, and buy board TIPS is an acronym. But they are cooperative agreements. And I'm not an expert in doing this from your side, but there are people I can put you in touch with who have just gone through it to give you some help with it if need be. But essentially, you go on there, you register, you sign up, you get an account. There's a lot of things you fill out about your business, the financials. And then at some point, my understanding is they both sort of will put out a like an RFQ type, opening for certain commodities, whether it be, say, maybe trade work or more roofing or plumbing or whatever it is, maybe just construction in general. And then you submit to those RFQs, and then they evaluate you inside there, and then certify you with being a TIPS or buy board member. And at that point, you're able to give us a quote, or what we call a cooperative quote or a buy board quote, in line with the pricing structure that fell out of your RFQ. And what that does is it enables me to, if I have a job, say at one of our colleges, say, Northlake College, and, you're in Jagger, we believe that you would be a good match for it, and everything's in line, all the paperwork and everything, then I can hire you for that work without a formal competitive bid, because you are a TIPS or buy board member. And that's the only way that we can do that. Otherwise, it has to be a formal bid. And I would say probably on average for these type projects, I'm talking about the FIP projects, I would say probably that takes, I'm going to guess, at least 2 to 3 months longer to get through because of the formal bid process. However, if you are a cooperative member, I can do one of a couple different ways. I can just hire you for the job because you're a TIPS member or buy board member, or I could informally walk 3 cooperative, say, contractors, and kind of have a little bit more competition in that way. But either way, it's a much more streamlined process. And in the year that I've been with the district, I haven't been here that long. I've seen a large amount of our business going with cooperative contractors. So I would highly urge you to both get in Jagger and look at the processes for TIPS and buy board. I don't know if anybody from DISD would want to comment when I'm done, but I do know that the ISDs, and at least in the North Texas, DFW area, are highly dependent, and I used to work for one of them. They're highly dependent upon buy board. Some of them don't even really care to do business unless you are a buy board member, because it streamlines their process so much and it helps them get things done. But from your point of view, you can't come to that table unless you're a buy board member or a TIPS member if the owner is trying to do a cooperative project. So if you don't have a cooperative, then you can't come to that table. So whether it's with DISD or DCCCD, Dallas County Community College District, or not, these other ISDs and all these other people, you can leverage it with them as well. So I would highly, highly recommend that. We got some links on there you can see, and I would encourage you to look into that process. Okay, next slide. Okay, I think that was it for me. I think John Moreau, our CBRE partner, is right behind me. Let's see if we have any questions. So I think that's for me is the pay schedule net 30. I believe that's the way all of our um, purchasing and POs are set up, yes. So any questions about the co-ops or Jagger or anything else that I can help you guys with?
Okay, we'll give everybody about a minute to see if they have any questions.
Yeah, okay, so how do you become part of the co-op? So can we back up a slide? So you can see, and maybe Julio can help me out there, see under tips and buy board, there's the link to those. You go on there and it should, prompt you to register, going through that process. And like I said, I've worked with several, in particular, MWB contractors recently that have gone through it. And I can tell you, it's not a 5-minute thing. It's a process, but the doors that it opens up for your business is vast. I mean, all public entities, that I'm aware of, have adopted cooperative, type projects. And again, when John talks and he talks about building buildings and bond buildings and all that, it's not so much what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all this other stuff, this $25 million effort we're doing every year that it could really help you with. And with smaller ISDs and maybe even DISD, they got other projects than their bond, I'm sure. And so, if they do those type of agreements too, if their board's approved it like ours has, it opens up a lot of opportunities for you.
Okay, in the essence of time, we'll answer 2 more questions, okay?
Yeah, so NCPA, I'm not aware of what that is. And I think that was the only questions that I had.
Okay, so I want to thank Mr. Scott Wright for giving us this information. Make sure that you are aware of these 2 links that I highlighted, tips-usa.com and buyboard.com/Texas. As you mentioned, make sure you go on there so you can register and be able to do more work with Scott's team.
Julio, just one more quick thing.
Uh-huh.
It is free for both of those. It doesn't cost anything to become a TIPS or buy board member. It's absolutely free.
Okay. So thank you so much. Up next, I have Mr. John Monroe, who is with CBRE HEERY. They are the program manager for the 2019 bond program with DCCCD.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. I also had a section coming up in a little bit later about the pros and cons of CMAR. I will go fast through that at the end. But before that, I kind of wanted to go through the bond update. And I wanted to thank Julio for putting this together. I know it was not easy. He's been working hard to get this done, and I'd like to thank the RHCA and their board members for, originally we had this as a lunch and learn, but now we are set up to do it as a webinar. It's working pretty well, so thank you, Julio. Next slide.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties, so give me 1 second.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
There we go. We got it.
Go ahead, next slide. All right, so May of last year, the Dallas County residents voted to allow the Dallas County Community College District to sell $1.1 billion worth of bonds to finance their future of education. And as we go through this time right now with the COVID-19 virus and all the distance learning that's going on right now, you can see that education has changed considerably, even in the last couple of weeks. So the timing is great. Next slide. I wanted to go through, oh, hold on, just hold on 1 second. Of that $1.1 billion, we are currently working on phase one. Phase one has about 13 projects, 11 of them that CBRE HEERY is managing. Ed Jenkins and the CSRS team is managing a couple other projects that are currently underway. The construction science building out at North Lake and the IT renovations at all the campuses. And we have two small projects that have already bid, the El Centro West student atrium space and the Cedar Valley commercial HVAC program renovation. Those two were bid a couple weeks ago. Those should be awarded here in the next couple of weeks. That leaves us 9 projects left. And what I wanted to do is kind of go through the projects, kind of the procurement method, the budget, the square footage, and kind of when to be on the lookout for them. So go ahead and go to the next slide. The first one is at Brookhaven College. They have a new early college, high school, and early child care education expansion at their campus. Total budget of $31.1 million. It is scheduled to be about 50,000 square feet. And of the 9 projects, I believe 6 of them we have planned to be CM at risk. Depending on how the coronavirus affects everything, we may have to shift some of that, but that's currently the plan, is to have 6 of them as CM at risk. Our goal is to get those 6 projects out for CMAR in late May, early June of this year. We have currently interviewed architects and are in process of selecting the architects for those projects. As soon as we get them on board, we'll bring the CMARs on board as well. So again, that's Brookhaven. It's a CMAR. Be on the lookout for late May of 2020 from a construction standpoint. The next one. Cedar Valley College. New early college high school building. Again, it's going to be a CMAR. The budget is $25.7 million. It's about 50,000 square feet. And it will be, again, on the lookout for that in May of this year. Next one. Also at Cedar Valley, we have a student one-stop shop renovation. That's budget is about $6 million. That one is anticipated to be a CSP, which means we need to finish the design first before we put it out for construction. That's why that one is looking to be a little bit later. It will be 4th quarter of this year or 1st quarter of next year for that one. Next one. Eastfield College. We have 2 buildings out at Eastfield College. The interdisciplinary academic building, which is basically a big classroom building. That one is about 56,000 square feet, $25 million budget, anticipated to be CMAR. So be on the lookout for that in May of this year, as soon as we get the architects on board. The other one at Eastfield College, next slide, is a student success center. Think of this as a student union building on steroids, kind of. It's about 80,000 square feet, $37 million budget, CM at risk, about to award the architect, hopeful for CMARs to be on board at the end of May of this year. Next slide. Mountain View College. There we have 3 projects out of Mountain View. The first one is kind of a specialized building. It's the Nursing and Allied Health building. This will be a CM at risk. It's about 35,000 square feet, $20 million budget, CMAR. So we're looking for that to be on the streets in May of 2020. Next slide. Mountain View is also getting a new early college high school building, and that was kind of the major kind of focus of this first phase is the early college high school expansions at almost every one of the campuses, partly because their populations are just exploding with the high school students, the early college high school students. So this is a new early college high school building in Mountain View College, again, about 50,000 square feet. This will be a standalone building. We're planning on doing this one potentially as a CSP. If the schedule needs it, we may convert it to CMAR, but right now it's planned to be a CSP. So we will finish the design, and then this will hit the streets as a CSP in the fourth quarter of this year or the first quarter of next year. Next slide. The third project at Mountain View College is a new Welcome Center prototype. This will be eventually part of all of the campuses. If you think of the one-stop shop as kind of where existing students go to get their needs, financial need, counseling, testing, et cetera, all that taken care of, the Welcome Center is really for potential new students and their parents. It's where the tours start, where they get the introduction to the college. It's about 10,000 square feet, $6 million budget. This one is anticipated to be a CSP. So we'll finish the design, hit the streets with this last quarter of this year or first quarter of next year. Next slide. And the ninth one is the new workforce early college high school building at Richland College. This is a large building. It's 100,000 square feet, almost $53 million budget. This one will be a CMAR. As soon as we get the architects hired and under contract, we will put out for CMARs on this project, anticipation late May of this year. Next slide. So MWBE program of participations, as I answered in one of the questions, Darcel Webb is the MWBE director for Dallas County Community College District, also now known as Dallas College. Her email is dwebb, D-W-E-B-B, at DCCCD.edu. She can answer a lot of your questions. We also have case strategies on our team, which is helping with the MWB component for our team. And Veronica's information is listed here at the end. The board has challenged us to have significant and meaningful participation. And they have a 30% aspirational goal. But really what they have charged us with is making sure that the teams that are selected for these programs match the students that go to those schools and can be held up as a success story for the students so they can see themselves being successful in a similar type of role if that's what they want to go to school for. Next slide. Again, this is when you get back up, when you get this PowerPoint, this first link here where it says register, that is take you to the Jagger sign up sheet, where your sign up link, where you can go to the Jagger website and get registered with Dallas County Community College to work as a vendor for them. Darcel wants me to make sure everybody knows that the MWBEs must be certified. And meet one-on-one with program team representatives. That may be by phone or email at this point due to what we're going through, but hopefully we can get back to normal fairly quickly. Next slide. On this slide, you have my information there. John Moreau, CBRE HEERY. My email is johnmoreau@cbre.com. And then Veronica Murphy with Case Strategies is our MWB program director. Her email is there as well. Next slide. That's it for this presentation. I do have a little bit of a CMAR versus CSP presentation. If you want me to continue with that, I will now, or we can take questions on the existing projects.
Let's go ahead and take a few questions.
Okay, first one I see is Wendy. Will the projects be green or LEED? My answer to that will be they will be designed as energy efficient buildings. It has not been determined yet whether they will go for certification or not. Peter, who the architecture firm, and when will we get emails on further info? The architects have not been selected yet. When they are selected, we will put out a communication. Would you state her contact information again? That's Darcel Webb, W-E-B-B. So the email is dwebb@dcccd.edu. Any other questions? And you have my email address in this presentation when it comes out to you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll try to answer them the best way I can.
Okay, we'll move on to the next part of the presentation.
So Scott Lane, thankfully and luckily, did an excellent job on kind of talking about the differences, and also Gary Frazier with CORE. CSP versus CMAR risk, we're going to do both on this program, so let's talk about both of them. Next slide. Competitive sealed proposals. The pros of that, it enables past performance and reputation to be considered, not just price as opposed to just hard bid. Competitive pricing, it is bid out generally to the contractors, but it allows negotiation with the selected contractor as well. It's fair and transparent, and contractor assumes the risk for completion. The cons, next slide. The cons, it's closed book, all the savings from an owner's perspective. The con is it's closed book and all savings go to the contractor. It's a subjective selection process. It's not just low bid. There's a potential, if there's something that's not in the drawings, there's a potential for change orders, and the project must be fully designed before it's bid and started. So that doesn't allow for fast tracking the project. Next slide. Best use of CSP, new construction, greenfield sites, or real simple additions and renovations. Single phase projects, something that is one and done in one area as opposed to having to complete certain area and move people around and complete it in several phases. You know, as long as it's a single phase, simple project, CSP is really a good method for doing it. Next slide. Construction manager risk, or CMAR. The pros, qualifications-based selection of a contractor, similar to the way architects and professional services are selected. CMARs are selected based on their qualifications. There is a pricing component, but typically the qualifications are the majority of the selection process. The biggest advantage or pro for me is that the CMAR is involved during the design. They're involved in meetings as soon as the designs start to get fleshed out. They give feedback on pricing, on constructability, on material selections, all of those types of things. All of those type of things lend to a greater finished product in my mind. As Scott and Gary both mentioned, it's well suited for fast tracking projects because the drawings don't have to be done when you get started. The control for the owner is greater in a CMAR. Next slide. The cons, the CMAR's accountability role changes when construction starts. Exactly what Scott talked about. You know, you're kind of an advisor and a pre-construction team at the beginning part of the design, but then once construction's bid and started, you just become the general contractor. There's a potential for a higher initial cost due to contingencies because the drawings aren't done. But it's still bid competitively to the subcontractor market. Some people fear that they may bid just to their preferred subs, but it has to be advertised just like any other process, so anybody can bid on it. It's a subjective selection process. There's a temptation to sign the GMP too soon before the design is finished. That can limit what happens in the design at that point, because you're signing on for the risk at that point. So you really have to control the budget at that point. Potential for bid shopping after GMP is set. I personally have not seen that, but I know some people worry about that. Next slide. Best uses for CMAR: complex, complicated projects, multi-phase projects like I talked before, projects where you're going into an existing building and you don't know what's there. Those are the type of projects that it lends itself for. Next slide. Some do's and don'ts. Just if you're not familiar with CMAR and you're pursuing a CMAR, don't go in with $0 of pre-construction unless you factor that price in somewhere, because it is a real cost and you are going to be required to produce results for it. You will have to be responsible for at least typically 4 full-blown estimates and many pricing exercises along the way, and you're going to have estimators go to design meetings every week, every other week for potentially up to a year. So there's a real cost associated with it. I know it's part of the overall scoring criteria, but don't consider pre-con. Let's be professional and do pre-con. Do's and don'ts when managing your CMAR project. If you're not familiar with having contingency in your project that is controlled under your control or the owner's control, you need to protect it, because if you spend it all right up front, you will wish you had it later. Again, here's my contact information again. We will open it up for questions. Next slide. Or is that it?
In the essence of time, we're going to take 3 questions. So if you could go to your Q&A section.
Certifications for MWB, I believe they take North Texas Council, Southwest Women's, Hub, and Minority Diversity Council. Do we have the opportunity to become a vendor for your company or to provide personnel for your hiring needs, or will this be through the contractor? Our team is pretty much set at this point. We have a diverse team. It's CBRE, HEERY, and we have 7 sub-consultants on our team. Our MWB percentage currently sits at about 43%. So our team is set, but there will be plenty of, it's couple $100 million worth of projects. So through the contractors, you should be able to provide or find lots of opportunities for staffing, especially today. Next question. Will you be expanding the existing facilities management contracts, i.e. custodial grounds, or will it be a new RFP for additional locations? I don't know if Scott's still on. That's really a Scott question. I know that they are working on an RFP for professional services. It should be coming out in the next couple of months. It'll be advertised very well when it does come out. I'm not sure about custodial and grounds, but I know they will be building their pool for architects, engineers, abatement, that type of professional service.
John, I'm still here.
Okay.
So for trade support for these new buildings, electricians, plumbers, etc., we do all that in-house. So I'm guessing that those colleges will expand their workforce. So we would just hire directly electricians and other trades people that we needed to support them. Our custodians are contracted. We're contracted with a company called ABM and a company called MBM, which is Macklemore. And they may hire additional people as well, but they're all internal employees, which we would hire.
Okay, let's take one more question.
I see one in the chat. It says, if you're releasing CMAR solicitations in May, June, when will the selected recommended GCs go to the board for approval? I anticipate it being a 30 to 45 day process. So it would be the July or August board meeting would be my answer.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody. I'm going to give everybody a round of applause, even though you can't see me. Thank you to all the presenters. These questions will make sure that we get them answered. And up next, I'm going to bring up Mr. John Martinez again so he can close it out.
Hello, this is John Martinez. Can everybody hear me? Or Julio, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Yes, we can hear you.
Julio?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
I want to thank everybody for participating. I think we got a lot of good information, some solid information. I think that, there is a beginning and an end to this. I'm not sure if we'll ever go back exactly to how things were, but I know we will come out stronger from this. Right now, our biggest important thing is, as Bianca mentioned, we have a backlash of people who sometimes don't understand the construction industry and how things work. We at our job, we know that our constituency base, we want to keep them safe. We want to keep the work sites COVID-free. We want to keep the workers COVID-free as well. If you go to our website on our homepage, it'll list resources. We now have the OSHA job preparedness in English and in Spanish. We put some of the information, all our information we're going to source to source CDC and governmental entities. We know that there's a lot of information out there, but we need your help to make sure we get this information out to our smaller companies and our subcontractors. Every day we're dealing with government officials on the complaints that they're getting, and sometimes they just don't understand. As Bianca mentioned, one of the complaints on the residential side was that a neighbor was having a giant pool built. How is that priority? Well, if you're not in construction, you may not understand that that big hole in the ground that's 12 to 15 feet deep is weakening the structure of the house that's next to that hole. And, in Texas, with the earthquakes that we have and the sinkholes that we have, that could cause something to the family who lives there. Also, that family has children. You don't want a big hole in the ground 12 feet deep with children who aren't going to school and having to stay home. Also, we've had a lot of rain. You have the mosquitoes going back there. You don't want mosquitoes that are going to be bringing disease into your neighborhood. So on the first glance, it may look like, well, they're just getting the luxury pool built. How is it a priority? But sometimes it's just frankly more hazardous to walk away from the project than it is to stay on it. Number two is right now, some of the construction sites, like at the airport, on the streets and the schools, it's just safer to do the projects now than there is. But most importantly, when we go back to normal, people are going to be tapping these infrastructures more than they ever have before because of the pent up reserves because we're staying home. So we're asking people to please send out this information. It's on all our social medias and our homepage, and we e-blasted everybody. But on the worker side, I will tell you, some of these workers aren't open or applicable to any of the stimulus funds. Some of them aren't applicable to unemployment. So the hour they stop working is the hour they stop receiving funds to feed their families. And many of them are supporting family back home in their country of origin. So because we want the construction businesses to continue, but we want them to continue very safely, we're asking that you please forward this information out and get it out, especially to your small subcontractors. In addition to that, I also wanted to follow up with the elections. We started our elections process today. The nominees will be receiving their directories. They will be making calls to you. We gave them time to call you in the evening. They'll have a whole week of calling you. And then on Monday, we'll have the actual voting start. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it'll be all online. The officers are on a slate, so you'll say yes or no to the officers in whole, and then the individual nominees for the 10 open seats, you'll vote, and then the top winners in that category will be selected. So the top 6 in construction will serve on the board, the top 3 in architecture engineers, and the top 1 in associate members. As always, if you have any questions, we're all working from home, but we all have our phones. You can dial 972-786-0909 to get this, any questions that you have. Understand that if you look at Facebook, we're getting, pictures of construction workers or people who are outside of the industry are asking questions. So beware that people are looking, and that basically we want to keep our workers safe. We will do a post email, Julio, where we will have the link to the video of the webinar, and then we will have the survey. The survey, once you complete the survey, you will get the presentation and the contact information that we gave today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Julio.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to thank everybody again for participating. Our different partners, Dallas ISD, CORE, DCCCD, CBRE, HEERY. Again, be on the lookout for a post email. On there, you'll see the information to take the survey. Please let us know what information you're needing. If, this platform, we're doing it via webinar. If any improvements that you see that we need to make, we're more than open to making them. And then, different topics and training opportunities that we can do with this. But I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I'm glad it's Friday. And with that being said, I'm going to end the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.